Geneva Motor Show in Doha, indeed the case. It was negotiated a couple of years ago to alternate the show between Geneva and here in Doha, and a member of the royal family, they opened up the show by switching on this box yesterday. Now it's our opportunity to check out the Geneva Motor Show for the first time here in Doha, and we're going to see a selection of cars we normally don't see at other auto shows. So as we start here, a bit of a Hinweis. We missed the media day because of a series of flights, so we're here on the public days. This is the first public days, all of them were sold out. I figured we'd start with a bang. No, this is not a Maserati, this is a Lazarus, the LM250F. And the whole idea is to take off on the heritage of Juan Manuel Fangio and make a continuation race car, but this one is a three-wheeler, but not like a Morgan three-wheeler with a Ford engine that's 3 cylinders. This is a 4.7 Maserati V8 that has a belt drive to the rear single wheel. So this thing is definitely a recipe for suicide if you really don't know how to drive. What's fascinating about this, they're only going to make one. You are looking at it, it's about 425,000 US dollars, or about 400,000 euros. Now let's come around to the back and check out, just look at the design of this thing. You can see they picked up from early F1 cars. That's the look here. These are designed, engineered, and imagineered in France. That's why it's street legal in France. Then that kind of explains the spacing here. Not the most practical. As you can see, there's space for your right leg, but I don't know if there's space for your left leg in here. Either way, this is a fantastic design exercise, and this really is what the Geneva Auto Show is all about. Land Cruiser. Now, as soon as I got out of the airport, the first car you see, every car you see here is a Land Cruiser. It's like the Ford Taurus of Doha, but this just isn't any Land Cruiser. This is a GR Land Cruiser LC300, 3.5 twin-turbo V6, 409 horsepower. But this one is a special edition, so what they're doing here is trying to mark 10 years of Toyota being on the podium at Dakar. So what they've done is they've made these parts specific to the Doha market. So they all have the 10th victory badges on it. It comes with the 18-inch wheels, which is definitely useful here. They bring these unusual tow hooks, red front and rear. The nuts change as well as the brake calipers. Now, what's fascinating about this, yeah, it's a Land Cruiser. Many of them are here in this market. However, this car, they're only going to make 50 with this special 10th anniversary edition. So Geneva has always been known for their fair share of exotic cars. If you move it to the Middle East, does that change? Absolutely not. Here we have not one, but two Lamborghinis. Let's start with this, the Revuelto, or Revuelto. I'm probably mispronouncing that, Entschuldigung to the caretakers of this brand, which you obviously know is German. So what this is their first ever electrified car. This is a hybrid. Really, it's a unique hybrid because it's a 12-cylinder gasoline engine, but this one has 3 electric motors. There's an electric motor that sits between the 12-cylinder and the dual-clutch transmission here, and then there's 2 electric motors in the front. Total output, 1,050, 800 of it comes from the gasoline engine. Now, something completely different, the Lanzador. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. This, I really can't tell you a lot about it because it's a concept car. So Al will go around it and show you some of the details. Effectively, what they've done here is a design study for their first ever fully electric vehicle. And you look at this and you can see a lot of Urus in this vehicle. It was premiered at Pebble Beach. And what they've done here is they've taken the general shape of an Urus and turned it into a coupe. I gotta say, I love the concept of this format of coupe. I don't think this will come into production. It will most likely be a 4-door like the Urus, simply based on the commercial success of that vehicle. But the bottom line, you are looking at 2 Lamborghinis that are electrified and fully electric in the first ever Geneva Motor Show from the Middle East. So I fly, what, 7,400 miles to see a guy in a Dodgers cap. Khalid, a pleasure to meet you, sir.
Pleasure's all mine.
I'm walking down the show here. As we see, we're on the regular public day, and I got to meet this guy, and apparently you are quite the car guy.
Well, you may say so.
What do you got at home?
Currently, I got an F8 and a Denali.
That's an interesting combination.
I know, but before that, I've been a long-term Porsche owner, so.
So explain to me, why do you go from like a Turbo S, which you had, to the F8? What was the motivation?
Actually, both of them are great cars, but I think it's got to do a bit of beauty. I mean, Ferrari is a beautiful car.
So you want them more sensual?
Exactly, maybe you put it that way. But I mean, my history goes back as far as the 996s and 997s and 991.1.2s, GT3 RSs.
You've had some good stuff. I feel
Yes.
like you're cheating on the family. You need to come back
In
to
a way,
the family.
yes, but that Turbo S, the last one I got, was handed down to my kid brother. So it's still in the family.
That's good to hear.
I'm
Now
not-
I feel better.
Yeah, I'm not
Now
betraying
explain to
them.
the audience, why do you have the Dodgers cap?
A big fan.
But not just a big fan, where did you go to school?
At UCLA. So.
Okay, so we got a Bruin here in Doha.
All right.
Sir, a pleasure.
Right.
Thanks for having me.
It's all mine. Thank you.
So yes, the Geneva Auto Show is well known for exotics. We have to at least stop into the Volkswagen booth because this is something we normally don't see in the US. This is an updated Tiguan. If you look at the front, it picks up the design language from the ID4, but if we come over to the side, you can see it's definitely a softer look over the entire vehicle, again, picked up from the ID4, but I would argue this is a bit more successful because they have a blend of the daylight opening from the ID4 a little shorter, and then there's creases throughout the vehicle, which makes the design look a bit more mature. The rear of the vehicle looks standard Volkswagen, but overall they've cleaned it up and changed some of the taillight signature. So an interesting Volkswagen, sorta. This is based on a Ford Ranger platform. And this, remember a deal a couple of years ago where Ford and Volkswagen got together and they traded EV bits for pickup bits? This is what came out of it. It's built in South Africa, and I have to say it is a very cool looking version of a Ford Ranger. But there's still one other Volkswagen we have to check out, a Touareg. Now I have to say I am personally biased by these things because my father has one of these things, had it since new, an 8-cylinder. The thing is still running strong, literally runs as a top. But you guys know the whole story with these things, at least in the US. They thought it was too expensive for us. People didn't buy it because it was too expensive, so they gave us the Atlas, which is decent. It just wasn't the Porsche Cayenne Light that the Touareg was. Here you can see it kind of shares some design philosophy with an Atlas, but overall it does look a little bit more mature. It looks a little bit more upmarket. Even the interior is changed on this one where the bits, the grade of materials are a bit better. But at the end of the day, this is a show about fancy cars. So this, it looks like a Formula One race car or a spaceship, but in reality, that is street legal. And it's something we've heard of before a very, very long time ago. That is a Delage, it is the D12, and it's a fascinating story. There was a French businessman, Laurent, great dude, had a long conversation with him, massive car guy. So he retires from his different businesses and decides he wants to do something in the car world, and that is to bring an F1 car to the street. So the idea of having the brand, that wasn't there. It was just, let's develop the car. And that's what they've done here. They first started development of the car in 2018. And what's most fascinating about this, that is their own homegrown engine. Well, there's an asterisk there. They started with an existing engine. Laurent wouldn't tell me exactly who they got the parts from. If I'm a betting man, I'm thinking that is probably at least the block came from Mercedes, and they modify it heavily to create 1,000 horsepower. Now, this being a car that is currently designed, engineered, and imagineered in France, it does have to have some electrification. So there is an electric motor that is between the engine and the transmission, and he was very specific about this. He put the electrification in there for homologation only. The car didn't need it. He wanted it to be a full ICE car. I love this guy. And then everything else was a combination of existing designers and engineers from the F1 world. Like, you look at this thing, you know, you and I see a lot of concept cars at these car shows. This is more than a kit car. This is more than something that they're just showing to raise money. This is a real thing. You can see they've actually done all of the work on the carbon fiber themselves. And it's not just this one car. They have, obviously we'll call this a Spider. And then there's this one, which is a more open concept. Now, they're all the same model, the D12. They're based on this, which you can see is a carbon fiber tub, and they attach the subframe to the carbon fiber tub. And in somewhat of a departure from current exotic car architecture, there really isn't a front subframe. They have the suspension attached directly to the carbon fiber tub. And then something else very unique, this is much like those Warbirds we have in the hangar, where it's a tandem seating setup. So you would think it's a single seat. In reality, it's a dual seat. It's just your passenger is sitting behind you. Now, that's all the technology behind the car you see that was created since 2018, but what about the brand? You see, when Laurent first started the company, he realized there was an opportunity in the hypercar market, but what do you do without a brand? So he was thinking, which brand could you go after? And he's French, so he's thinking there's really two very famous French car brands. The other one was acquired by Volkswagen, and that was resurrected with unlimited funds. So he went and sought out Delage, especially with the history they have in racing. And it was fascinating. Delage, the company, the brand, was actually owned by fan clubs. So they ended up buying the brand from a fan club and then recreating the company underneath the Delage brand. And now we have the D12. Now, of course, we have to end on something classic. And here they've done something unique for this, the inaugural show in Doha. They've brought in a classic car exhibition, but this one was curated from all different cars within the country as like a prelude to the coming Qatar Auto Museum that will be part of the Qatar Museums. Now this, my favorite of the collection they've brought here, which ranges from Royal Rolls Royces to old race cars. This is a BMW 328. No, not like a 328 from like the late 90s. This is the original 328. So remember the BMW 4 Series episodes where I beat you up about the grille and how I tell you that's gonna grow on you? This is the reason why. Look at this thing. Back when this car first came out, this was a very narrow grille where everything was very wide and very tall, and this kind of grew over time. The same thing happened with that 4 Series. And with that, let's wrap up our tour of the first ever Geneva Auto Show in Doha. This has been a fascinating experience for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, we met the founder of a current car company, and then what you didn't see off camera, I got to meet the great-grandson of the founder of Delage, and then of course we met Khalid with the Dodger hat. So this has been wonderful to kind of get to know the city. The hospitality here is unbelievable. Hope to come back again soon. So this is the point of the episode. I turn around to you guys and say, which one was the favorite of the show for you? Now there's a lot we didn't get to see because there was just so much here, as well as doing this on a public day is near impossible from what I'm finding out. But either way, it's been a great experience. So until I see you in the next episode, be später.